Okay. Okay. Glad that's working. So let's get started. We're starting a little bit later, but that's okay. So this meeting is going to be recorded. We will edit out all the "can you hear us" stuff. Don't worry about that. Thank you guys for coming, and thank you, John, for joining us. So this is John from Royal Irish Tours, and he is going to be talking to us tonight about what Royal Irish Tours as a company is and what they offer, as well as giving us the rundown on the itinerary of the Irish Twist Tour that Jeff and I are hosting this August. So I'm going to let John do his thing and take over. And at the end, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to either unmute yourself and we can have a chat, or you can put any questions that you have in the chat box here as well. All right. Take it away,
Perfect.
John.
Thanks, Alicia. My name is John Fallon. I am the sales manager for a company called Royal Irish Tours. As you can guess from my funny face and my accent, I am not from Canada. I am from the west of Ireland. I'm here the last 6 years now working for Royal Irish Tours, and I am lucky enough to get a few dollars to talk about home and to send people back to Ireland, which I am very privileged and honoured to be able to do. And I'm just going to share my screen here now, and we'll give you a rundown of Royal Irish Tours, who we are and what we do. So just bear with me for one moment here, and I'm just going to double check with Alicia that you can see the full screen on your end.
All good.
Perfect. So I'll just run through Royal Irish Tours. So we are a family owned and operated company at our core. So the gentleman here on the top left is Mr. Ian Duffy. He immigrated from Ireland in the early 80s. He's been working in the tourism industry most of his life back in Dublin. I met a Canadian, moved over, continued to work in the tourism industry, and then 23 years ago he broke away and set up his own company, Royal Irish Tours. As its root, it was a coach tour company for the island of Ireland for Canadian clients only. So when Ian set up the company, he noticed that there was no coach tour company based in Canada, and to our knowledge today, a lot of the I suppose a lot of the volume that comes from North America comes from the States over to Ireland. So he found it was important to have a company that caters specifically for Canadian clients. To this day, we are Canada's leading tour operator to the island of Ireland. We don't advertise anywhere outside of Canada itself, so we are quite fortunate that we have quite a strong and loyal following here in Canada, thanks to great agents like Alicia, and I think about 70% of our business is still within Ontario. So we are quite fortunate that the Canadian market is loyal to ourselves here. Our main office is in Richmond Hill, and we also have an office over in Dublin in Ireland as well. So our team over in Dublin, they do all the grunt work. They're out knocking on doors in hotels, checking them out, reviewing them, checking in with attractions to make sure everything is up to spec. So we are quite fortunate not to be working with an additional company over there. It's our own team on the ground. So it's a big help from the product side of view. And then if anything happens during your vacation when people are over there, it's always nice to have someone in destination dealing with something in real time. With the time difference over to Ireland, we are 5 hours behind here in Canada, so if anything does happen, it's nice that someone is there and they're able to deal with it rather than phoning home in the middle of the night or anything like that. And I'll start off, I suppose, with why people choose to go to Ireland. Having grown up in Ireland, I took a degree in tourism as well. We talked a lot about imagery and that whole kind of visuals when it comes to destinations. And I think the big one for Ireland is we do play on that image and the product of Ireland a lot, and it's the scenery itself. So I put it down to a lot of it is some great blockbuster movies that have been shown for generations. You've the old Hollywood movies, The Quiet Man that was filmed in the west of Ireland. You also have the new Hallmark, I wouldn't say new and improved, but definitely the Hallmark movies that just high volume wise, you see a lot of those movies that really do get in, and it's the same images of Ireland that have been, I suppose, recycled and reused. It's nothing new. It's the likes of the Cliffs of Moher here over on the west coast. You have the Giant's Causeway way up in the north part of the island itself. And these are images that have been, for generations, the tourist board have been using these, and that's a big one that kind of hits home for people over in Canada, especially, is to think of Ireland, to think of the green fields and the scenery itself. Personally, I think another one why people choose to go over to Ireland is the castles. I have to say abbeys and manors as well. I know it's castles people think of right away when you think of Ireland, but from the different neighbours that decided to come and stay a few hundred years on the island, one of the best byproduct, I suppose, of that is the fantastic buildings that we have still in existence today. I always include this building here. It's Dungura Castle. It's a 15th century castle. I include it because it's 5 minutes from my house at home, and when I was growing up, we used to curse all the tour buses that were right outside the castle itself. Back then, there wasn't the best infrastructure surround the kind of the tourism industry, so you had a lot of tour buses pulling in on the side of the road and everything. So here I am years later trying to promote people to get back to this part of Ireland and this part of the world. But thankfully, we've a fantastic new car park across the road and everything. But we have these castles that, growing up, I simply took it for granted that these were dotted around our neighbourhood. They were in some neighbours' fields, sometimes they're in ruins, but there's a lot of them that have been invested in, and you can go in and see these castles firsthand, and you're going into places that have been around, let's say, 13th, 14th century, which is quite interesting. You have here Kylemore Abbey. So we have the castles, the abbeys as well. It's interesting and important to note that they're still there throughout the island of Ireland. Kylemore Abbey was actually built an English gentleman. He went over on with his wife. She liked the area so much. This was the cottage he decided to build for her. And I suppose because of that, it was a fine cottage back in the day when it was built in the late 1800s. During the First World War, it actually became home for the Benedictine nuns escaping persecution from Belgium. And to this day, it's still operated by the Benedictine monastery. So it's quite interesting. Any castle on that you go to Ireland, people, when they go over, they're often sick of castles by the end of their week or 2 weeks in Ireland. But each castle has its own story and its abbeys and manors. They're all very unique in what they offer. A big one, especially, I think, having moved over to Canada and realised a lot of the real connection between Canada and Ireland, I kind of maybe took that for granted growing up. The people where I'm from, a lot of the people immigrated to the east coast of the states. So the likes of Boston was a big pull for people from Galway, from the west of Ireland, and you can see it dotted around each area of immigrants kind of went to separate areas of North America or Australia or over to the UK. I know in Ontario, for example, there's a strong population from the north of Ireland that immigrated. So you can see that with different names throughout. A lot of Macs either coming from Scotland or coming from the north of Ireland. And that kind of plays into the image of why people want to go back and visit Ireland itself. I think there's 4.5 million Canadians that claim Irish ancestry of some degree. So it's always a curiosity, and having moved over and having conversations with people, they'll say, oh, my grandparents were from Ireland, or my parents were from Ireland. One day I want to go back. So that's kind of one that it aids us in putting together a product that we can allow people to go back, and that also helps us as a Canadian company to work on that story of immigration to Canada is also being told throughout our coach tours as well. The big one, I suppose, in Ireland, we cannot talk about Ireland without talking about the Irish pub. It's, I suppose, part and parcel of life back in Ireland. In my little village back home, we've always had two pubs. We got a gas station about 5 years ago, but the two pubs were always part of the community. They would have acted as grocery stores back in the day. If you don't drink, that's not a problem for pubs in Ireland. There's a pub for everyone. You'll go in and you'll find some pubs, they have music twice a day, every day of the year except for Christmas when it's closed. Other pubs you go in, there's no music, there's no TVs or radios. It's simply a conversation pub, one where people of the locality will go in and they'll be able to have conversations and the gossip and see what's happening in the village. And you go into others and they've got all the sports and that on the TV. So there's a pub for everyone. And as I said, with our tours, we try and blend it in. So it's a mix of, you're getting the nice scenery, you're getting the castles and the manors. You're also getting an opportunity to go in and mix with the locals in the pub, and you're getting your, I suppose, your few history lessons when in terms of immigration to Canada as well. So that we try and without focusing heavy on one part of it. We don't do a pub tour. We have in the past on different groups, but it's not something that we focus solely on. But we like to kind of intertwine it throughout the trips themselves. And a big one for us in Ireland, people often come back and say, "Joe, it was a great trip, but what really made it was the people itself." And it is something that Ireland, from a tourism point of view, really relies on is the actual people of Ireland itself. You can go over and have the best hotels in a destination. You can have the best food, but if the people aren't warm, if the people aren't inviting or open, it doesn't really gel altogether. So, from my point of view, I think a lot of it has got to do with immigration, with Irish people spread throughout the four corners of the world. When people come back and choose to visit Ireland and sit down in a pub and spark up a conversation, I think Irish people just really are embraced by that. They want to get to know you. If you say you're over from, let's say, Grand Bend, or oh, that's near Toronto, they might tell you they've got a niece in Vancouver. Do you know her by any chance? It's just this kind of familiarity. They want to figure out if they have a common ground between you, and that comes down to the Céad Míle Fáilte, which is 100,000 welcomes. And we are quite fortunate in Ireland. It is a very hospitable island, so when you are over there, it's safe. People are very warming, and if they know you're coming from Canada, they'll find that common ground between the two of you. So that's a big one for us as well. Is the Ireland as a safe destination. A quick note as well, I suppose. After people, one of our biggest, I suppose, immigrants itself would be drink. I suppose when you're looking at alcohol and Guinness and whiskey and everything that comes with that. But a side note that a lot of people don't think of is actually the food in Ireland. Thankfully, the food has really improved throughout the island. Over, I'd say, the last probably 10 years, there's been a big push. This farm to fork concept that's pretty common now, but in Ireland we are quite, you go into a lot of places and it's whatever is in season is what's being used, which is quite nice when you come to an island nation that when the seafood is in season, we're using it. One to keep in mind as well, I know people when they head down to the Caribbean, they're looking for different food. They might have food allergies and things like that. When you're going over to Ireland, we have one of the highest celiac rates of celiac disease in Europe is in Ireland. I'm not sure what the reason behind it is. I think it might be some Celtic disease or that, but just bear in mind if anyone is gluten free or celiac or have dietary restrictions, Ireland is definitely it's a safe destination when you come to that. So year on year, anytime I'm going home, it's really interesting to see the improvements in even small like pub food and things like that. It's come on board. So just to keep that in mind as well when you are thinking of Ireland, and if you have any food allergies or that, it is a safe destination as well when you're going over. Proximity as well, a big factor when you're looking at a vacation is the proximity from your home to get over there. Thankfully in Ireland we are direct flights from Toronto, so we have at the moment Air Canada, Air Transat, Aer Lingus and WestJet fly seasonally. So you have four airlines that will fly directly from Toronto over to Dublin itself. Typically with our tours we working with either Air Canada or Air Transat. That's mainly because of the timings that the flights arrive in, and it's nothing got to do with really preference or anything like that. Aer Lingus is an Irish airline, but their flights get in a bit early. They get in at 5:30 in the morning, whereas the likes of Air Transat are that gets in around 11:30 or noon. It just gives time, because if you arrive in at 5:30 in the morning, most hotel rooms aren't going to be available until about 3 o'clock in the day anyway. So the later you get in, it kind of works to your advantage as well. So we are quite fortunate here in Toronto that you can get back mostly every day of the year. I flew at Christmas with Air Canada back home, so we are quite fortunate. The length of the flight is typically about six and a half hours going over, and about seven and a bit coming back as well. When I was flying at Christmas, there was a bit of a tailwind, so we made it in under 6 hours. So you can be lucky going over sometimes. So just to bear that in mind, it is direct and it's relatively easy to get in terms of accessibility with the several airlines that get over there. And just to give you an idea of the island of Ireland itself, of course, we have to talk about from a political point of view, the island of Ireland is two countries. So you have the Republic, which is made up of 26 counties. The remaining 6 counties to the north of the island are part of the United Kingdom. So you have Northern Ireland up there. Thankfully, there's no hard border. So when you're going from the likes of Dublin up to Belfast, you blink, you're gone through from the Republic of Ireland to Northern Ireland. In the south, so where the Irish Twist tour will take place, we're looking at Dublin southwards, and I'll go through the itinerary itself. You'll be dealing with euros only. In Northern Ireland, it's British pounds. Just to kind of, for anyone that might be going up to Northern Ireland and doing their few days, it is British pounds up there only. And as I said, the Republic is euros only as well. Visa and MasterCard are accepted widely throughout the island as well. So bear that in mind. Cash is really only if you're going into maybe smaller pubs or small little shops throughout the more rural locations, but for most part, Visa and MasterCard are widely accepted. On the west coast, you've got the Wild Atlantic Way stretching from Derry all the way down to Cork. On the east, then you've got Ireland's ancient east, which is kind of more of a focus on the ancient Ireland and the more Celtic mythology that comes with that. And then for the scenic driving up by Belfast, you've got the Causeway coastal route that'll bring you from Belfast all the way up to Derry itself. And just to give you an idea of Royal Irish Tours, we do anything from escorted coach tours, which I'll talk about next, small sightseeing tours, driving holidays, and all the way down to custom groups as well. And to give you an idea, there are so many coach tour companies, or so many companies that do tours over to the island of Ireland. What's the difference from Royal Irish Tours? Just a few notes. We try to keep our group sizes to maybe lower than average in the industry. So the likes of our bigger coaches, they're going to average about 30 passengers. The Irish Twist, which I'll talk about here, it's a maximum of 30 that we take. The likes of August, it probably averages between 20 and 25 passengers. Our sightseeing tours, we only take a maximum of 16. We like to offer some unique visits as well throughout our tours itself. So I always say when it comes to Ireland, there's only you can't really reinvent the wheel too many times. You're going to be seeing the main attractions. We like to celebrate the ones that have been around, the ones that are invest in the community, and attractions that have really, I suppose, speak to what we've talked about, the reasons to why people go over to Ireland. So, for example, I'll talk about a bit more on the Irish Twist. We get to see the Cliffs of Moher from the sea, which is quite a unique perspective. So, weather permitting, if we get it on a good day, it's really nice. You get down, and you get to see the cliffs from, where less than 5% of the people get to see it. You're looking right up at the cliffs from the seabed itself, and it's quite just vast and a unique perspective to see it from there, as opposed to the general seeing it from land itself. Dunbrody Famine Ship is quite an interactive experience that I'll talk about in a bit as well. We like to have more included experiences. So with any of our coach tours, we try to limit the amount of times you'll have to put your hand in your pocket. So breakfast is included daily with any of our coach tours. You will have evening meals included as well. We tend not to offer an all-inclusive experience, similar to like a vacation down south. We feel so if people are going over to Ireland, you're there for 7 nights, we would roughly have 3 to 4 evening meals included. And the reason for that is we want to allow people that if people are on a coach tour, they may have different preferences when it comes to meals or what they perceive to be expenses as well. So if someone wants to go and have local fish and chips, they can do that for dinner some evening. If people want to go and have a Michelin star meal in Dublin, for example, that option is there as well. So we feel it's important that if people want to spend their money on something different when it comes to meals and things like that, that we want to give people the time, and by allowing that, it spreads the business of tourism around a bit as well, as opposed to having 7 nights in the hotel, evening meals there as well. It tends to confine or condense where the money is actually spent from. So from a sustainability point of view, we think it's important that people actually get out, and when they have their evening meals or for their lunches, that they can choose on their own will where they choose to eat or even drink at night time as well. Our tour guides, we're quite fortunate. Our latest tour guide's been with us for the last 10 years or so. So they're a mix of retired teachers, librarians, historians, and they're very passionate about the island of Ireland. So we are quite fortunate with our tour guides that have been with us. They're quite loyal and are really passionate about what they do as well. And at the core of all that, what sets us apart really is we are a Canadian company catering for the Canadian clients. And I suppose at the real core of that itself as well is we are Irish, I suppose. Like, as I said, our founder, Ian Duffy, is from Dublin. I'm from Galway in the West Coast. In the office at the moment, we have about 5 or 6 staff that are Irish as well. So it is quite I suppose it's quite unique and quite different when you're talking about a product. It's not simply a product, you're talking about home as well. So you want people, when they're going over to Ireland, for me, I want to have them the best time from a selfish point of view because they're going back to where I grew up, and from a business point of view, we want people to go back and really enjoy the experience of Ireland with Royal Irish Tours. And to the main point is why you're here this evening is the Irish Twist Coach Tour. So we're operating with Alicia and Jeff from August 17th to the 24th of this year. So it's a maximum of 30 guests, and this tour focuses on the Southern Ireland experience, the south of Ireland. I'm not just saying this because Alicia has chosen and Jeff's chosen to sell this, but I've always had a soft spot for the Irish Twist Coach Tour. I just feel that for a week-long tour, it really ticks a lot of boxes. For highlights in Ireland, it goes to a lot of places that are quite unique, and it works very well for people that have maybe can only get away for a week. So you'll fly in a Friday night, the tour will start on a Saturday morning, and then it finishes up the following Saturday as well. So quite kind of it moves nicely. And then for people that want to come in early, they can come in and do a few days early or extend on as well. There are options for that. But we find as a week-long tour focusing specifically in the south of Ireland, this tends to just work pretty much as a nice tour itself. So I'll kind of run through the day to day. If there's any questions at the end, feel free to reach out. And if there's any questions that people think of later on in the week ahead or the weeks ahead, feel free to reach out to the guys. So day one, you'll be flying overnight. You'll land into Dublin Airport. From there, you're picked up from the airport. You're brought down to Wicklow. So you'll have a kind of a welcome lunch. You'll get to know the people. You'll have some welcome packs and be, I suppose, briefed by our tour guides. You will have a tour guide and a driver itself. And from there, you make your way down to the sunny southeast that we call in Wexford itself. So you'll be relaxing by the River Slaney here tonight at the Ferry Carrick Hotel down in Wexford. So for the first day, we try to do with a lot of our tours, we don't have too much happening. So people are flying overnight. Some people are flying overnights. Other people they'll fly, they might be a bit groggy on the first day. So we tend to not have it too heavy on the first day itself. So this one, you get down, by the time you get down to Wexford itself, you'll get to relax, your rooms will be ready, and you're right by the water itself. So quite a relaxing evening. Dinner's included on the first night, so you don't have to worry about going out or finding tables anyway. So quite a nice way to kind of get grounded on the first night, and then it's really on day two then when I suppose the touring would start from there. So from Wexford, for the next day, then we head towards Cork itself. So our first stop is in Wexford itself. It is the Dumbrody Famine Ship Experience. So this is the ship here in front of you, and what this does is you get on and everyone is given a ticket as they got on board the famine ship. So it's a replica famine ship of what would have taken people from Ireland over to North America, be it Canada or the US, during the famine itself. And as people will learn, and some people would know already, you would have different, I suppose, status of people going. Some would have been well-to-do business people that were choosing a new life abroad. Others were maybe forced to leave as well. So as you go on, they tell the story of the different class of people, the survival rates, and it's a really interesting and I suppose an immersive experience for people that do have a connection to Ireland during the famine period, or even anyone with a general interest in the famine in Ireland. So this one, it's a really kind of plays on, as we talked about earlier, the history of Ireland, and it kind of sets the tone, I suppose, for people on day one, it kind of, or day two of the tour, of that connection to Canada and why people choose to go over during the famine itself. So that's quite an immersive experience, and one that a lot of people actually find very interesting, very in depth. After that, then we have a music session set up. So we go to the Marine Bar in Waterford itself. And so this one is nice as well. Of often you go over to Ireland trying to get into a live music session sometimes can be busy, depends on the time of the year and the days of the week. So this is a nice one. After the famine ship, you go in, you'll have some time to go in and enjoy a live session in the pub itself. So again, we kind of on our day to day, you're going to be maybe leaving the hotel at 9 o'clock. You're back in by 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and you have your attractions during the day. You're not going to be on the tour bus for more than an hour and a bit without stopping for either a washroom break or a comfort stop or a photo stop by a castle or an abbey or something like that. So with that, you have the likes of the Marine Bar. So that's used as kind of a comfort stop. You go in and have a music session in a local pub with the locals itself. And then that night we overnight at the Metropole Hotel in Cork City. So Cork City is known as the Rebel City. A lot of, I suppose, main Irish figures in history, rebellious figures came from Cork City and County itself, and we're actually staying in the city itself. So a fantastic place to get in, stay at the Metropole, so you can get again time to get out and walk about the city itself. So as as we always recommend it, it's always good if you're going in having your dinner at the hotel that you're getting out afterwards. If you still have a bit of energy to get out, maybe meander through the streets and meet with some of the locals itself. Day three, we head for the lovely Cove itself. So one of the most, I suppose, the famous images of towns in Ireland is the one of Cove, and probably the most mispronounced town in Ireland itself, often called Cobb. We'll hear it. So it's Cove here on the south. It is in the southeast of Cork city itself. So quite a picture perfect city or town when you go to Cove itself. You have the church itself, and you have the matchbox houses here, as they're known. So this would have been a place. It's the Navy back in the day, and still to this day, the Navy base down there. So similar out to the east coast of Canada, where you'll see the multicolour houses. The same reasoning behind that, I think it was for the sailors when they were coming back, that they'll see Cove or they'll see home on their way in. And what we have set up then today is we get to the Titanic experience. So Cove was the last stop for the Titanic. So it was the last port of call, the last pickup point for its voyage across the Atlantic was in Cove itself. So quite again an immersive experience where you get to go in and it'll tell the stories of individuals who went on the ship. You'll hear different stories of people that were meant to go on the ship and missed it for one reason or another. So it's quite a fascinating and interesting exhibition of the ship itself and just the town of Cove, how it was, I suppose, the main port. It still is with cruise ships and that over in Ireland to this day. So it's quite an interesting town itself, and this experience just kind of adds to it and gives you an idea of the importance of the industry, I suppose, to the south of Ireland. We overnight again then at the Metropole Hotel in Cork. So you'll have 2 nights at the Metropole. Day four, then we head for the Kingdom of Kerry. So you go into Kerry, and the scenery here is probably the one that has been celebrated the most when it comes to Irish folklore and Irish imagery just through the generations. So you'll be going through areas such as Mall's Gap, as it's called, throughout the Ring of Kerry. You go into the town of Killarney itself as well for lunch. And this is just the traditional image of Ireland: green fields, cottages, barren landscapes, mountains and rivers. This is what you'll see here on day four of your experience. So a lot of it too, it's just the coastal, the ruggedness of Kerry itself, and a fantastic area located in the very southwest of Ireland itself. And we overnight in one of my favourite towns in Ireland. I remember interviewing for Royal Irish Tours back years ago, and Ian had asked, he says, what was your favourite town in Ireland and why? And I said it was the town of Dingle, and there's about 40 pubs in the town of Dingle, and they've got a population of just over 2,000 people. I said it's not related, it's no relation to that why I love Dingle, but it's just a really fun place to go. And we're quite fortunate. We stay at the Dingle Skellig Hotel. You're within walking distance of the town itself, and to me, Dingle is just the personification, I suppose, of Irish hospitality, of Irish tourism when it comes to great pubs, great restaurants. And if you're looking for a music session, this is the place to do it. And you'll go in and you'll hear the Irish language being spoken in a lot of the pubs. They are quite proud Irish people. When you go to Dingle, there's nothing staged about it. It's very much an authentic town. So we're quite fortunate to have one night here. So you spend your night here at Dingle. So I would say enjoy this night here if you can at all. Day five, then we make our way up the Wild Atlantic Way on the west coast of Ireland, and this is just very much it's a scenic drive today. So you go from Kerry and you make your way up through Limerick into Adair, which is one of the most, I suppose, picturesque towns in Ireland when it comes to this thatched cottages that you'll see. Um, Ireland has a great road network. It is developing continuously. Adair is one of those places where everyone has to pass through. And because of that, I suppose they've really embraced that. It hasn't been bypassed. So you'll see a lot of coach tour buses going through here, and you'll see the thatched cottages. A lot of the gardens are kept in immaculate condition, and a lot of the coaches will actually stop here for a comfort stop. It's just a very, I suppose, picturesque town to go in and actually see an old version of Ireland that does exist as well in certain parts of the country. So you'll see the limewash thatched cottages, and if you're there in a certain time of the year or every few years, you'll see the people working on the thatch itself up on the roofs. And the big attraction we have here today then is we get to visit the Cliffs of Moher. So this is the most visited natural attraction on the island of Ireland. I suppose made famous again through movies that have been used in year. The most recent that I can think of, I think it was in Leap Year. It was in one of the Harry Potters as well. Basically any movie that is filmed in Ireland, there's going to be an image of the Cliffs of Moher at some aspect of the movie itself. If it's a still image or if it's in the background, you will see the Cliffs of Moher. And it's just the vastness of it. And with this, because we get to go out by boat, you're actually up here beside the sea stacks as well, so you're getting to see right in the cliffs and the puffins and everything if you're there at the right time of the year, and weather of course plays on your right side. And as you go out, you can see to the right, you'll see the Aran Islands, where the famous Aran sweaters are made. And the Aran Islands are 3 Gaelic-speaking islands, which are quite popular again in the summer months. There is still a native population that lives out there, and on a good day, you'll see it then from the boat, just from the pier at Doolin. And I suppose one of the second reasons why I really like this tour itself is we get to overnight at the Armada Hotel in an area called Spanish Point in Clare. We're about a half an hour drive from the Cliffs of Moher, and this is where you'll have your breakfast at the Armada. You're overlooking the Atlantic Ocean. It's a 4-star property. All the accommodation on this tour is a 4-star. The Armada should be touching a 5-star property. It is one of the most, I think, progressive 4-stars that we have in the island of Ireland. Very popular for weddings. And just when it comes to the whole concept of food, especially sustainability, the Armada Hotel really has it top notch. They've got a lot of hotels in Ireland will have a bar, of course, on site. The Armada kind of goes one step deeper. They actually have a proper pub on site. So you'll go in, they'll have the open fire, you'll have musicians playing. And to me, it's a very authentic image of Ireland. So the Johnny Burke's pub has been there for generations. My parents used to go there well back in the day before the hotel was as big as it is. And Johnny Burke's is still there, the pub, and the hotel is more or less kind of built around it itself. And then I always say, if you really enjoy the pub at night time, or you enjoy the salt water, I would advise a 5-minute walk down to the Atlantic on this morning for a quick dip as well. It's always nice before we head over to Dublin. But we overnight here in the Armada Hotel, as I said, one of probably the top hotels, 4-stars that we have on the island of Ireland. And day 6, then we make our way towards Dublin itself. So we I suppose we call it burn bogs and bottles. You go from the burn, which is this karst limestone landscape that you have on the very west of Ireland. It's from the ice ages, whereas pulled back, it's more or less stripped bare with little pockets of grass. The area where I'm from is in Galway, and it's considered the Burn Lowlands, where a lot of the land around us is limestone. Kind of it takes in a lot of water as well, and with that you'll see a lot of kind of under rock ponds and tunnels and things like that because of the seeping of the water over the years. But it's quite a unique landscape. You won't see it anywhere else in Ireland. The burn is it's just on the west coast. From your driving from the Armada Hotel for about an hour and a half, it'll just be constantly the burn and this landscape of the Atlantic Ocean at one side and the limestone rock on the other. We make our way towards the Midlands then, which is quite a boggy area of Ireland, and we go into Kilbeggan Distillery. So Kilbeggan is considered Ireland's oldest licensed distillery. There's plenty of old unlicensed distillery, but Kilbeggan claim to be the oldest licensed one. If anyone's not familiar with Kilbeggan, you can actually get it at the LCBO. I think it's a pretty reasonable price here in the LCBO. It's nice if anyone is as the weather is getting colder here now, it's nice for your hot toddies in the evening time at Kilbeggan whiskey. So we go in here and you get a walkthrough, you have a tour and a sample and a tasting as well. So Kilbeggan, an old town in Ireland, unfortunately one of those towns that has since been bypassed by the motorways, where you don't get a lot of business anymore, but thankfully the distillery is still there, and we like to go in and kind of showcase that and encourage, I suppose, to diversify, that it's not all about the big attractions in Ireland, that we like to look after the old distilleries that are still alive and kicking as well. You get into Dublin, then we stay at the Camden Court Hotel on the south side of the city. You're in the city centre and you're there for 2 nights itself. I included a picture of the Temple Bar. If anyone's in Dublin, you will probably be wanting to go to the Temple Bar. I would advise go take your picture. It's a fantastic area of the city. But if you're looking for a cozy pub, mixing with locals, I might recommend a few streets over from Temple Bar itself. I was there a few years ago. Temple Bar is a great place if you want to bump into some Canadians from home or you want to catch a hockey game. It's very much a place where a lot of visitors to Dublin, for example, would go and meet up. But it's a picture, as you say, it's a picturesque street where you're going. It's the old cobblestones. It has been revamped, I think, in the 60s and 70s. It once upon a time wasn't the best area of Dublin, since been revamped, and it's kind of this major hub now for international visitors going over itself. The following night, then or the following day, I should say, we've a free day in Dublin. So you have a hop on, hop off ticket. Dublin is yours to explore. We don't have anything set for this day because in Dublin is one of those cities that there's something for everyone, and it's very hard to coordinate 30 people that will really like one thing in Dublin. So big attractions, you do the hop on, hop off. I always recommend to do a lap of the city, and then at the end you can stay on it and choose where you want to go back to again. So the Guinness Storehouse is probably one of the most famous attractions in Ireland, or in Dublin, I should say as well. That's always a good experience if anyone is familiar with Guinness and I suppose interested in the history of Guinness and its lease. I would advise a stop at Guinness. You have Jameson Distillery in Bow Street as well. You've got the GPO here, the picture in front of you. On the left is the General Post Office. That was the hub, I suppose, for the rising in 1916, Ireland's rebellion. You've got a fantastic immigration museum that's opened recently in the last few years, Epic, and it tells the story of Ireland's immigration throughout the world. And they've got a great concept and great information on Ireland's immigration to Canada. So you'll go in and you'll see the old posters of people being, I suppose, enticed and welcomed over to Canada with the promise of land and different things like that. So it is a fantastic place to get over to. Epic if you get the opportunity. Trinity College. So again, there's something for everyone. People check out the stadiums that there is. So if there's any sports people, you have the Crow Park, which is home to our national sports. You've got the Aviva Stadium, which is home to the soccer and the rugby as well. So there's something for everyone in Dublin. So that's why we recommend the hop on, hop off. Do that for a spin and then see what you want to go back. So you have the full day to explore Dublin. That evening then we have our farewell Irish dinner and show. So we get on the coach and we're about 10-15 minutes outside of the city, and it's a fantastic sit down opportunity. You get your 3-course meal, you get your few drinks, and they have Irish dancers, ballad singers. They come on stage here, as you will see, and they perform, and it's very nice on the last night of the tour. Dublin, as I say, it can be quite a busy place to get in and to get 30 people even into a pub, and never mind a seat and a drink at the same time. So there's this fantastic place called Taylor's Tree Rock where they bring everyone together. You can sit down, you have your meal, as I said, but it's all within it's a comfortable environment. So you get to see it, and they look after these people. I've done this show probably 4 or 5 times now, and that's been over years, and they still have the same dancers, same people working there, so they really look after their staff in terms of holding on to people and having top performers there as well. So it's fantastic Irish dancing and singing firsthand. Day 8, we say Slán Bhaile, which is safe home. So you'll be brought from your hotel on Camden Street back to the airport in time for your flight. So if anyone chooses to stay on and do their own thing, options are there as well. And that's it. That's day 8 of the tour, and you're back back to the airport itself, and from there back to Canada. And I'll just go through a kind of a recap there of the tour itself. So you'll have transportation throughout by modern coach. You'll have 7 nights accommodation in 4-star properties. As I mentioned, full Irish breakfast daily. Lunches aren't included, but I always say to people when they're over to Ireland, if you have a full Irish every day, you're going to be fine for most parts until dinner time. If anyone for lunches, there's time allotted for lunches. So when you get into a town, there'll be recommendations, Joe, for if people want to go for seafood, bowl of soup, pub, things like that. There's always recommendation. Of the 7 nights that you're going to be in Ireland, you've got 4 evening meals included. Along with that, you've the Irish entertainment evening, you've got the cruise in the cliffs, the tour and tasting at Kilbeggan, admission to the Titanic, and the hop on, hop off. So for that, it's, as you said yourself, the days aren't overly jam-packed. We're not shipping you from location to location and to see, as much as you can. We want really people to enjoy it and to embrace it, and to not to be rushed around as well. So people, when you're coming over, Ireland itself, 7 nights, it's perfect for doing, maybe focusing on the south of Ireland. So we think it's a nice tour for that. As I said, maximum of 30 guests as well. So really has that kind of nice group size feel to it. And for Alicia and Jeff until the end of January, just to give you an idea of price wise, it's $25.49 per person. That's based on double occupancy, and $32.49 based on single occupancy. Flights are additional to that, and flights typically average then anywhere from $900 maybe to $1,100-1,200, depending on the airline and the fare you're looking at going on. And as we say in some parts of Ireland, Garamila Mahagut, which means thank you 1,000 times. And if there's any questions, I'll chat with Alicia here, and I'll just exit off from my screen here, and hopefully everything works out okay. Let me see.
Awesome.
And that's okay. Can you,
Yeah,
if that
no,
screen is gone there, Alicia?
your
Yeah.
screen's gone. Yeah, no, that was excellent. That just makes me want to go even more.
So yeah,
we
I
just
had
have
to get
get
all the
through this
green
winter.
pictures. Yeah, I had to get all the green pictures. There's no rain in any of those pictures. So.
Yeah. That's definitely something we'll have to market. Make sure you dress for the weather.
Yeah, that's what I forgot to mention. Layers when you're going over to Ireland. It's always best to. I wouldn't bring any big winter jackets or anything like that. We have people that have done tours with us that have worn shorts every day. It's not going to get overly cold or overly hot. So going in August time, likelihood it's going to be a nice weather-wise. So it'll be probably, high teens during the day. Nighttime, it's not going to get overly cold. But layers is always a rain jacket. It'll be your best friend when you're over in Ireland.
Yeah, for sure. You showed that the Temple Bar. So Jeff, we have a nice picture of Jeff and I at Temple Bar very early in the morning before the crowds got there. So that was kind of nice. But yeah, it's a great spot for a photo and a pint.
It is. It's a very interesting.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, because I only found out like recently enough. It was kind of one of those cities where they are one of those streets that they have revamped, and like back in the 60s and 70s, and it's worked out because people go there, they take their pictures, and they like went for a drink, and it's good fun around it if you have a group of people with you. It's a good place to be.
It is, yeah. All right, awesome. Thanks so much, John. If anyone has any questions, you can feel free to unmute yourself, or you can pop it into the Q&A or the chat, and we can go over those. I have a couple of questions, I guess, that we can kind of kick us off here. So you mentioned the transfer. So the transfer is included, and we'll meet you at the airport and take you to your first stop, and then return from the hotel at the end in Dublin back to the airport.
Yeah, so they're normally linked with the Air Transat flights. So if anyone is, Transat typically gets in around 12 o'clock on the first day. So it's one of the later flights in. So if people are flying with Air Canada, that Air Canada flight is in beforehand anyway. So they might just have to wait an hour or so for that. It's typically Air Transat. On the last day of the tour, again, the transfer is usually based on Transat. That leaves around 1 o'clock. So if someone's on another flight, arrangements can be made as well. If people are on an earlier departure, that's not a problem.
Okay, perfect. That's great. What time do the days start and end? So you were saying about like if you have the energy to still go out and kind of sightsee a bit at the end of the day, like what time would your is it a 6:30 a.m. wake up call, or traveling until
that's the one with us. We try to like that. We would have maybe 2-3 attractions max in the day included, like the main things. You're typically on the coach between 8:30 and 9:30,
Okay.
and you're back in somewhere between 4 and 5 in the afternoon.
Oh, okay.
So we try to give people as much. The geography that they're covering on the south of Ireland, the roads aren't too bad. So up in the north of the island, it can be a bit tricky. There are some longer days, excuse me. But for the Irish twist, you're typically looking at 9 to 5
Okay.
um, as the day. And again, if you have a smaller group size, like the maximum we have is 30 on this, if it operates with 20, you have that kind of flexibility as well with the
Mhm.
group that just makes things a bit more easier. But 30 is always, it's a nice group size as well at the very max that we'll take. We often find with August, it just tends to be in around the mid 20s on the
Mhm.
departure. So it
Mhm.
it leaves that bit more flexibility that it tends to be your 9 to 5 type of day.
Okay, that's nice. So you could still do sightseeing at the in the evening or go to the pub.
Exactly. There's options. Yeah.
I love it. And the cliffs, you mentioned that you do the cruise through when you're
Yeah.
on the Irish Twist. Do you also see them from the top, or are you is it the cruise?
We don't. So it's kind of weather dependent. It's mostly by boat, because the where you get on to see the cliffs by boat is probably maybe 20 minutes from the actual visitor center itself.
Mhm.
So again, depending on the weather, if it doesn't work out, everyone will go up top.
Mhm.
Um, it rarely tends to close in the summer months. When I was back at Christmas, there was a couple of days where they will shut the whole cliffs itself because of
Mhm.
a wind warning or something like that. But um, they'll only bring you out as well if the weather is decent as well. So
Mhm.
you're not going to
Okay.
be, the last thing we want anyone is 30 people to go out and get seasick and then back onto a coach as well. So
Fair
if
enough.
the weather is iffy, we'll have you upstairs at the visitor center and you get to see it from above.
For sure. Wonderful. Awesome. Those were my questions. Does anyone else have any questions for John about Royal Irish Tours, about Ireland, about Irish Twist? You guys can pop them in the chat or you are welcome to unmute yourself.
And if there are any questions that come to mind over the next, just let
Absolutely.
Alicia know and we can sort you out, because I know sometimes people will be, it might be tomorrow morning or next week that'll come to
Absolutely.
mind. So if there's anything that
Myself
pops up,
included.
or yeah, or something, we often find people will be watching something on Netflix and they go, "Oh, that's in Ireland. Do we go there on the tour?" So
Yeah, yeah,
di-
for sure.
di-
Yeah,
different
definitely.
things like that.
Yeah, you guys can definitely reach out. You know how to contact us. Yeah, this is great. I keep saying to people that Ireland is just one of those places that I feel like people from Canada, but even more specifically, people from here in county where we are located can just relate. There's just seems to be every time I speak to somebody from Ireland and look into it, there's just so many similarities between our lives here and what is described from Ireland. Like you're talking about not necessarily like growing up there, not necessarily appreciating what you had right in your backyard.
Yeah,
Growing up, like, Jeff and Grand Bend, myself in Bayfield, like right on the shores of Lake Huron, where people are traveling from the US, people are coming from Toronto to come see it. And we're here every day and you just don't really appreciate it. And then you kind of have this aha moment where you're like, wow, we're really lucky to live here and people actually want to come and see this. So I can definitely relate to that comment and that's just another way that I feel like there's that connection that between Ireland and Canada and even smaller to here in county, just that connection between what we have and appreciating and yeah,
yeah, and that kind of, like, I grew up like small town community. Farming is big in certain parts.
exactly. Yeah.
You're by the water as well, which I know, like on Lake Huron too. It's like, to me, I'm really drawn to water. So any weekends in the summer that I can get to, I can get to Lake Huron, I'm there.
Oh,
So
well, you'll have to let us know when you're coming up, John.
yeah, for sure. And I haven't been to Grand Bend yet, so but I know
Oh, well,
it's
we'll give you a tour.
yeah. So, and it's one of those where, people are like, anytime I go back home now, I kind of see it in a different perspective of, it's on your doorstep and you take it for
Mhm.
granted. Of like that castle beside my house, I was there once on a school trip and that was the only reason why people would go there. So it is interesting to see it from a different perspective when you're going back as a visitor.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And it's just, yeah, we're very lucky and it's great that like you said, you get to share your home with all of us, and
Yeah.
so
No, it
I'm
is.
really
It's
excited to come see, come visit.
Yeah, no, and August is a nice time as well. Weather is decent. People are they're excited. It's kind of the ending of the summer, but it's a nice time to be there.
Yeah, we were in Dublin in the at the end of, or sorry, the beginning of September when we went,
Yeah.
and it was nice. The weather was good. It was, yeah, we didn't have any issues with that. So we're looking mid-August. So yeah,
Nice. Yeah.
I'm looking
No,
forward to it.
it'll be a good time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, John. If anyone has any questions, last chance here. Otherwise, you can send them off to Jeff or myself, and we can always connect with John. But otherwise, thank you, John, for
Thank
taking the
you.
time out of your evening to come present to us. And thank
No
you
problem.
for everyone for attending. And have a good night,
Yeah.
everybody.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
See you later.
Thanks.